This is more serious than I thought. Apparently your mother is amorously infatuated with you instead of your father.
Whoa, wait a minute. Doc, are you trying to tell me that my mother has got the hots for me?
Precisely.
Whoa, this is heavy.
There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
What?
The only way we're going to get those two to successfully mate is if they are alone together. So you've got to get your father and mother to interact in some sort of social...
Well, what, you mean like a date?
Right.
Well, what kind of date? I don't know. What do kids do in the 50s?
Well, they're your parents. You must know them. What are their common interests? What do they like to do together?
Nothing.
Look, there's a rhythmic ceremonial ritual coming up.
Of course, the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. They're supposed to go to this. That's where they kiss for the first time.
All right, kid. You stick to your father like glue and make sure he takes you to that dance.
A long, long time ago. Actually, it was only 4 years ago, that year 2021. I thought of a podcast idea. It was so much fun that first year that I figured I would do it again. The next 2 years I did the sequels. Compared to the first, there are no equals. The fourth year, as you all know, was that silly cartoon show. And when March 31st arrived, I wouldn't say I almost cried, but I thought it best to decide to say my last goodbye. But I lied about Marchy McFly, said that last year was the last year and that the show had died. But I found a way to keep the podcast alive, and I'm gonna call it Marchy McFive. I'm gonna call it Marchy McFive. Yeah, I lied about Marchy McFly, said that last year was the last year and that the show had died. But I found a way to keep that podcast alive, and I welcome you to Marchy McFive. Go again. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy March 17th. Happy day 17 of Marchy McFly. Happy day 17 of Marchy McFive. Happy St. Patrick's Day, you Irish bugs. I am excited to get this episode up and out for you guys early today on Monday. And I'll tell you why. I didn't want to say it yesterday. In fact, I started saying it and then I edited it out. But today I took a sick day out of work, and that's because I am been drinking some special liquids, and later I'm going in for a special procedure that all men my age, all people my age probably should do. So that's the most I'm going to say. So I've had a pretty uncomfortable last couple days. I'm looking forward to eating a meal of food soon. But that being said, there was no goddamn way I was going to let anything get in the way of me talking Marchy McFly to you. Now, later on in the day, I might be out of it. I might be tired. I might be groggy. I might just be, wiped out, or just hungry and just tired. I guess which is the same thing as wiped out. Yeah, I'm already kind of like delirious with lack of food, but I'm not delirious enough to not, or maybe I am delirious enough to continue talking about Back to the Future for the 17th day in a row, even on no food. I haven't had anything solid to eat since yesterday breakfast. I did have some chicken broth last night for dinner. It was the most amazing chicken broth. When you haven't eaten something all day, and then you get to enjoy chicken broth, my friends, you don't realize how amazing that. Like, I wanted to like pour all of it into a bucket and then just stick my head into that bucket and just take in the essence of the chicken broth. See, I didn't know I was going to be talking about chicken broth. That's the fun thing about Marchy McFly is I'm here to talk about Back to the Future, but a lot of the times I just hit record and whatever happens, happens. Clearly, that's the case today. So I am making a deal with you right now. I am not going to play any little clips. There's not going to be any songs. There's not going to be anything extra. It's just me talking to you about Back to the Future today, specifically minutes 57:21 to 1 hour and 56 seconds. We've crossed over the hour part, and I pretty much, I think I forgot to mention or bring up the 30-minute plot point that we were at last time. A few days ago, whatever it was, 10 days ago, where I've talked about in the past from the one script writing class that I took, that you can a lot of scripts follow a formula where at the 30-minute mark some major thing happens, and in Back to the Future it was pretty much right around the 30-minute mark that Marty went back to 1955. Now we're closing in on the hour mark, another half hour, and we're realizing, okay, Marty needs to get his parents together at that dance. I mean, we kind of already knew it, but it's starting to, it doesn't have to be an hour on the spot. It's like now we realize, Lorraine, Marty didn't realize this. He didn't realize this from, being at the house. No, he didn't pick up on any of those social cues, apparently. The climbing on the bed, the purple underwear, the squeezing his leg, the stay in my room. None of that. The reason he left was he was uncomfortable, but he still, what he's trying to, is it compartmentalize and shove those feelings way, way down, never to think about them again. But Doc couldn't help it and mention it. So it picks up with Marty, talking to Lorraine. Is like, I want you to introduce you to George McFly. And one thing I've noticed, I've picked up this time around, is that George is, he is a shy guy. He's, picked on, considered like stereotypically nerdy. But there is this little air of confidence that he has, this like bravado. And the first time I saw it was with when young Biff was talking to him, and he takes that big heaping bite of cereal. He's like, yep, I'll bring it on over tomorrow. Like he's trying to put on a brave face. Maybe it's more trying to put on a brave face. You don't see any of that in the original 1985 version of George. So you wonder if 30 years of life beat that out of him. He tried to do it. He tried to have it, but it just didn't work. It's just easier to just go work for Biff than follow his dreams. But in this, right when Marty says, Lorraine, I'd like to introduce you to George McFly, George puts his hand up, like very nonchalantly, like, right next to Lorraine, and leans up against the wall like, hey, how you doing? I'm cool. And he's trying to believe it. Lorraine doesn't even notice at all. She just is like, Calvin. And I love George's way of just like, well, this isn't working. So he just kind of turns his head, looks away like something else has caught his attention, and he just moves off. We don't see him anywhere. He just walks to class, I'm sure. And then Lorraine has to go to class. She's like, isn't he a dream? And that's, of course, where you get another famous line. This movie, I've talked about, this famous one line, this famous line. This movie is chock full of them. Are you trying to tell me that my mother has got the hots for me? So a lot of the times when I'm looking for lines, I've been going to the Back to the Future transcript on the wiki, and they really screwed me today because Back to the Future transcript. Wait a minute. Transcript. And I've been going to this a lot on movies.fandom.com. And it says, hey, wait a minute, Doc, are you telling me that my mother has got the hots for me? Now, that's not right. That's not what he says. He says, you trying to tell me that my mother's got the hots for me. So whoever wrote this wasn't actually transcribing it. They were just either going on memory or they just misheard it. I don't know. Very upsetting. It is a wiki, so I wonder if I should go in and change it. I feel like I should. But, of course, the big thing is that Marty has he just now realizes that his mother apparently has got the hots for him, which he says, this is heavy. And then we get the another joke of, well, there it is, that heavy again. Is there something different wrong with the gravitational pull in the future? Doc's like, what? I don't think that term is ever used again. I feel like there is it part 3 where he says this is heavy and Marty says Great Scott. Like there's a time where it's switched. And you'd think doing it all this time, I should know. But alas, I don't remember. The other day I posted a TikTok video and a YouTube video talking about Lorraine's, like when she spun out of the room and she was like all like, excited that a boy was in her room. And a guy commented, does anyone else find it disturbing that a mother would be attracted to her son? And I was like, yeah, that's the point. That's the point, nerd. That's the point. Like, why else do they do that? They do that to make you feel uncomfortable, and because it's kind of funny that this girl is, interested in this new boy, not realizing that it's her son from the future. So, Doc's like, you need to get your parents together. And he's like, there's something, like, what do they like to do together? And I love Marty's line of nothing. It's like you see your parents at a certain point. It's like they just kind of, they just sit there. Like they don't do anything. And I like that. But he's like, oh, wait, there's a rhythmic ceremonial ritual, which when I Googled rhythmic ceremonial ritual, one of my videos from 2001 popped up, which I thought was pretty cool. Of course, it's the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Marty knows it because his mother's talked about it for years. Even though Linda called it the Fish Under the Sea dance, that's where they kiss for the first time. So he's like, you got to get your parents to that dance. You got to get them together. So you got to get Lorraine. Never mind just introduce them. You have to get your dad to ask her to that dance. So he shows up at the cafeteria. Again, Marty's just moseying around the school, no problem. He shows up at the cafeteria and he talks to George. And I like that George is writing sci-fi. We see that there is another side to him. And Marty's like, I didn't know you did anything creative. And he's like, can I read them? He's like, no, I don't let anyone read them. I just, he's afraid of, that they wouldn't like them. He's afraid of rejection, much like Marty. But he doesn't say, I don't think I can take that type of rejection for the book, for the writing, which I thought was good. They saved it. Because he says, Marty starts lying and says, Lorraine wants you to ask her to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. He's like, really? He's like, yeah, go do it right now. He's like, now in front of everyone? That's when he says, I don't think I can take that kind of a rejection. And I like that. I just like that they used it there in the cafeteria. And she's like, well, anyway, I think she'd rather go with someone else. Who? Biff. And then we see Biff. And then we see another silly line that I've used many times, like, you want it. You know you want it. You know you want me to give it to you. Now, yes, I jokingly say that to my wife, and she laughs at me, probably just assuming I'm being some goof, not quoting a 40-year-old movie from the movie Villain. But Biff is grabbing Lorraine, and, like he grabs her. He's like, maybe you are, and you just don't know it yet. She's like, I'm not that kind of girl. And, yeah. That's the first sense where you realize, oh, Biff, this guy might be more than just a jerk. He might actually be dangerous. And of course, George just stands there, and most of the school just stands there. But Marty goes up because Lorraine says, get your meat hooks off of me. And he goes, you heard her, get your meat hooks off of her. And then, now Marty knows Biff. But that's when I think he was like, oh, yeah, Biff, I forgot, you're much bigger than me. But even where he's much bigger than me, bigger than Marty, Biff is used to pushing around kids. He pushes Marty, pushes him again, and Marty pushes back. And I don't think Biff was expecting that. And they go to almost to blows. Strickland standing there, apparently just lets them do this. And Biff's like, since you're new here, I'm going to cut you a break. And that's where the moment ends. That's where the segment ends. 3 minutes and 35 seconds. We get a classic line, and we get some backstory on George, that there is more to him than just, being the quiet dad, that works and takes care of his family, that he actually had dreams and aspirations at some point that he either stopped or he never shared with the family. Like, you wonder, did George in 1985 have ideas for stories, write down stories, anything like that he just never, he just kept to himself, those are the big things in this moment. Marty now getting more on Biff's radar. It's like, okay, first this guy was at the diner and he's just staring at him. What are you looking at, butthead? Nothing, no big deal. Biff never thought twice of him. But now that Marty goes in there and stands up to Biff for Lorraine, which of course, what does that do except make Lorraine even more like, oh my goodness, he's my knight in shining armor. But now that Marty did that, Marty's definitely on Biff's radar, and, it's only going to get worse. The only other thing I want to mention in this segment is, first of all, is it Babs, Lorraine's friend? She looks like frightened when Biff starts getting mean. But also when Marty is talking to George, there's this kid in the background who looks about 14 years old. And I swear he looks in the camera at least once. And it's like, come on, dude. Dude, you have one job. Don't look in the camera. They already got Toby looking in the camera, little Toby Baines, and he's not credited. You want to lose your credit? Look in the camera. Boom. That's Zemeckis. He's like, anyone looks in the camera, their name's coming off the IMDb list. And they're like, sir, what is IMDb? He's like, you'll find out. And he winks. And because Robert Zemeckis really has a time machine, I don't know where I was going with this. I'm delirious with hunger. But I'm closer to, the way I look at it is, I'm closer to a meal. So that is the most exciting part of getting this over with. Speaking of getting things over with, I think I'm done. It's a short one today, but there was no way I was going to miss it. And I am glad to still do it. And actually it's a good short kind of block to talk about. I mean, yes, it's 3 minutes and 35 seconds, but it's not a ton of detail to talk about. Obviously, the Huts for me, big line, Marty and Doc realizing, we need to get them to this dance, and him fighting with Biff and finding about his dad. And I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over to try to get closer to that 20-minute mark, but I'm not sure I will. I'd like to, so maybe I just will slowly talk to you until I get there. Or not. Now, listen, you can find me on socials, because I'll be back tomorrow for day 18. I hope you will be too. But you can find me in the meantime on all the social media. I'm going to list them out to try to, pad this episode. Blue Sky. That's the big one. That's where I'm mostly at. Instagram. Mastodon.social. I don't really use that anymore. Twitter, I barely use that. I look at it sometimes just to see certain news items on certain things, but I don't post there really anymore. That's really it. TikTok is Geek Mentality Mike. Facebook is Fans Not Experts. YouTube is Fans Not Experts. That's because the website is fansnotexperts.com. Really, if you're not on Blue Sky, it's basically like a Twitter type thing. It works exactly the same. It's less cluttered. It's less owned by an asshole. So those are the two major things, and those are the reasons that I'm enjoying it. And people I like are moving over there, and if I want to follow them and communicate with them and talk with them, I go over there. That's the way to do it. So that's it. Now I'm done. I think I'm getting close to the 20-minute mark now, so we've got to include the theme song too. So that's it. I will see you tomorrow. But until then, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. We did it. I'll be back tomorrow, and I'll feel fresher and I don't want to get into any more detail than that, but I'll see you then. Okay, goodbye. I have to run now, literally. Here is my theme song. This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe. 'Cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time. And I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans not experts.